with helium in rocks of the Earth's crust. And here I'm going to bring up another quote for us, and I'll read it. And it says, in the year 2000, samples of the New Mexico zircons were sent by the RATE scientists to a state-of-the-art laboratory where measurements could be made of how fast the helium was escaping. The measurements confirmed that helium was able to leak out of these crystals quickly over a wide range of temperatures. In fact, results showed that the helium could not have been escaping from these rocks for more than about 6,000 years. It is easy to see why the RATE team was excited by these results. On the one hand, these rocks contain large amounts of helium consistent with a radiometric age of 1.5 billion years. On the other hand, the helium should long since have escaped from the rocks if they were really that old. Both observations can be explained, however, if the helium was generated during a burst of accelerated radioactive decay within the last 6,000 years. This would have produced large quantities of helium rapidly, but because the event occurred in the recent past, there would not have been time for most of the helium to have escaped since it was produced. Now, there's a massive tome of the RATE project. If you're really interested in digging down into details, and Paul can speak more about it if he wants, but there's something you can get out there where you can read a lot about this particular aspect of helium in rocks and the radio halos, and also the systematic discordances of radioactive decay or radiometric dates for rocks. But if Paul wants to comment about the helium, I'll let him do that right now. He may have more to say about it.
Again, you've sort of explained it quite well, really. Some decades ago.
Hold on, that was actually you explaining it, because I was just I was reading the quote from your book. But go ahead.
Okay.
I interrupted you.
Yeah, so some decades ago, there were reports looking at some granitic rocks at a geothermal site in New Mexico, and they were sort of drilling down into these granitic rocks, and they found that there was quite a high retention rate of the helium. So helium is a byproduct of certain types of radioactive decay. So when uranium-238 decays into lead-206, you get the emission of alpha particles. Alpha particles are essentially, you can think of them as a helium nucleus. The helium nuclei sort of grab electrons from their surroundings and form helium.
Right.
Helium gas. So helium gas is sort of produced in the crystals in these granitic rocks as a result of the radioactive decay. Now, from the amount of helium in the rocks, we can see that it's consistent with the conventional radiometric age for these rocks. You can use uranium lead to date these rocks, and the age of the rocks comes out around 1.5 billion years. And
1.5
I think they
billion
found
or million?
1.5 billion.
Right.
Yeah, billion years. And I think they found up to sort of 58% of the predicted amount of helium from all of that decay was still present in the rocks. So you have a lot of helium consistent with a lot of nuclear decay, but when you actually measure the rate at which the helium is escaping from those crustal rocks, and ultimately it'll end up in the atmosphere.
Right. Because helium is an inert gas.
Yes, and it actually escapes from these rocks pretty quickly. It sort of leaks out of these rocks fairly quickly. You can measure the rate at which that's happening in the laboratory, and that's what the RATE group did. They sent samples off to get that helium leakage rate quantified, and it turns out that in order to retain up to 58% of the helium, the leakage couldn't have been happening for more than a few thousand years.
Okay.
So you put those things together, how do you explain it? How do you explain a large amount of radioactive decay, but the fact that the helium is still in the rocks?
Right.
The best explanation seems to be that there was some kind of episode of accelerated decay,
right,
which produced lots of helium, but that episode of accelerated decay has to have been within the last few thousand years Otherwise, the helium would long since have escaped from the rocks. So again, it's just another piece of evidence that fits the picture of accelerated nuclear decay as an explanation for the radioisotope data.
And also fits the picture of the Earth being only around 6,000 years old or less.
Yep. Yep, exactly.
Thank you for listening. Credible Faith is a global missions-minded apologetics ministry with content available in 7 different languages across 7 websites: German, Russian, Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and English. If you would like to support the global apologetics work of Credible Faith, go to crediblefaith.org and click on the donate icon. If you would like me to give an apologetics workshop or participate in a debate at your university, or if you would like me to give a Great Commission missions conference or apologetics conference at your church, get in touch with me through the Contact Us section of the Credible Faith website. You can also submit a request through the website to get Credible Faith's monthly email. If you are a native speaker of Russian, German, Italian, French, Spanish, or Portuguese, and if you notice that an essay from the English website is not available on the Credible Faith website for your language, feel free to get in touch with me about translating the essay, and I would read through your translated material for quality control and the desire to see content from the essay made available in your language. Thank you for listening, and have a great night.